Hello, good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and disembodied hands Quindy, Justin, John, and Kiki. Up, 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 Papa. Hey, come on, put your paws up. Good girl, yay, and Kiki, yay. Good girl, good girl. Yeah, that was good. Oh, now there's noms. All right, out, little spot. Yes. Boop. Got your nose. All right, you enjoy your air. Oh, dear. We go back and forth. Back and forth. It's like some days are Nami and some days aren't. That be like it. Hello, hello. Cool, Tarzan, cool. Yeah. Yay, yay Monday? I don't know, right? Maybe not. Maybe yay Monday is a little strong. How was everybody's weekend? Did y'all have fun? I had a pretty lazy weekend. We went to the art show Saturday. That was cool. We did not buy anything, but we saw some nice pieces. I think the quality of art at that show has gone up. Oh, wet weekend. Yeah, we're getting a little bit. It's cloudy today. It's supposed to rain tonight, I think. Or at least there's a chance of it. But, yeah. So today, we're going to do the gold on her. And I am probably, depending, I'll block in the chain, maybe. Maybe I'll do the chain and do the wash. Because with this fine of a chainmail, and I'm essentially treating that as the same, even though it's not quite the same, just for color balance purposes. With this fine, you have to decide whether you want to go like darker or lighter with it. And if you need it to be dark, like if her armor was silver or white or another light steel color, I would base coat the chainmail black, and I would use side brushing to pick it up. But because her armor is so dark, I want this to be light, and that means I am going to actually use the base coat and wash technique instead, which is going to give you a lighter result rather than a darker one. It is Mayday. Yep. Ooh, Agent Marvel, cool. Do you have your results yet? I'm such a nerd. Do you have your top 5? I'm so intrigued. She's elfy. I mean, she's a succubus, so. Lol, yes. Okay, wait, do you mind telling me your top 5? I'm just so excited. I'm curious as to what you are, if we have anything in common. I'll tell you mine. If you tell you yours. And did it resonate is the second question. Did it make sense to you? I think it's a very interesting test. So Clifton Strengths, guys, is not really a personality test. It's a metric. So you do answer a bunch of questions, and you kind of have to answer them on the fly. It measures and if you take too long to answer one, it will skip that one, and it'll measure it essentially as a split because, you didn't answer it. It's kind of like the Myers-Briggs, but it's backed by a ton of science and decades of research and the point of no, that's not. Myers-Briggs is the JNTP blah, blah, blah thing, Pendrake. Clifton is the one where its whole purpose was to assess the ways in which humans become the best at things. So, and then by looking for common personality traits across all those ways that humans become the best at what they do, and essentially finding 34 descriptors, strategic is my number one. And essentially, if you're a strategic, then you're very much always looking at the big picture, and your brain likes to look for the best option. Not just a option that will work, but the best option. It's a best-seeking strength. But your strengths also work, you have all 34, and they're essentially ranked from highest to lowest. And they interact, right? So I think it's like 1 in 10 million people has the same, or even more. I think it's 1 in 10 million has the exact same strengths layouts as you. So it's very individualistic. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is money to take. It is backed by, and they use the money essentially to fund their foundation. But yeah, they do a lot of stuff into, a lot of research into like just, and their whole point is that you're going to get better results by concentrating on your strengths than you are by concentrating on your weaknesses. Like we always like that, you know, in humans, we like to say, oh, you should shore up your weaknesses. You should try to make your weaknesses not weaknesses. But Clifton Strengths research shows that actually the opposite is true. It's not that you should neglect your weaknesses. Like obviously if a weakness is really handicapping you, then you should work on it. But you're going to get a lot more like success out of actually trying to capitalize on your strengths. And so that's the whole idea behind the Clifton Strengths thing. Oh, empathy. Wow. We're opposites. We're opposites. Empathy's like my 34. It's 33 or 34. I'm such low. Oh, achiever. Wow. I wish I was an achiever. Includer. That's so cool. Individualization. I'm a 5 into individualization. It's so good. Oh, and developer. Yeah, we're very different. My top 5, the only thing we have in common is individualization. So individualization as a strength essentially means you think often about the differences between people and you love the fact that people are so different and it fascinates you. So in career talk, that means that you can leverage that because you're going to have an understanding that people are different and how to help them work together and how to see that each other's strengths like can help each other. So individualization, really cool strength, really cool strength. Like that one. And achiever, everybody wants achiever because achiever is what like drives you to get things done. Like you're a get doner. And includer is just awesome because it means that you always want to pull other people in and like make them part of the group. Like those are great strengths, Agent Marvel. I love those strengths. I'm jealous. Developer. Yeah, developer I think can be subtle, right? Yeah, there will be surprises, right? It's really cool. It's really cool. But I bet, because I have connectedness, and I would not have thought, I had connectedness number 6, and that's the one that surprised me in my top 10. And I was just like, And then I started to really think about it. And I really do think that all things are connected, and that the things that I do today will will have an effect on things that happen tomorrow. Like, I really do feel that way. And I feel like everything happens for a reason in my life, and I have no regrets in my life because of that. So I guess I am a really high connectedness, but it was really weird. Yeah, but maybe in your top, because remember, top 10 and even top half are really strong. Like I think there's something I have in my, I would have said I would have had in my top 10 that I have in my top 15. And I still feel like it has a bit of an impact, but they say top 10 are the strongest. So top 5 are like, the analogy they use is like top 5 can be your water, you know, like 2 fish. Do you guys hear the fish parable ever? The fish parable, you know, two young fish are swimming along and they encounter an old fish, and the old fish is like, hey boys, how's the water? And they're like, oh, you know, whatever, okay. And then the old fish swims past and the two young fish look at each other and go, what's water? So like your top 5 strengths can be your water. Like they're just always on, they're always working, but your 6 through 10 strengths can still be really strong. Oh, wow. Well, that's really cool, though. Yeah, see, I'm strongest in strategic thinking. I think I have 5 out of 7 in my top 10. So I'm a strategist at heart. I'm a thinker. I'm such a thinker. And I wish I had more relationship building. Although connectedness and individualization, I think, are relationship building. So that explains why I can do this, right? I can stream. Anyway, it's a fascinating test, even if you don't take it, because I know it costs money. It is really interesting, and like read about it, guys, because it's got like 40 years of research behind it at this point, maybe more. I think Don Clifton started it ages ago because he was fascinated. He was number 1 individualization, and he was fascinated at the differences between people and how people could be like so different and still find success, like in their lives, in their chosen fields, in their relationships. You know, he was like, these people are amazing, but they're amazing in all these different ways. And so that's what drove him to start the whole thing. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, we're very different. That's neat. And of course, being an individualization, I think that's neat, right? Oh, they have a 20. Yeah, you do get it less for the $20 tier. But if you want to get a taste of it, you can do it. And then if you want to upgrade, that they allow that. Because I did the lower cost. Like, actually, I bought the book. And that gets you a test. So the book, I think, is $30 or something. I wanted to read about it before I took it. And they give you a code in the book. So you get the beginning test. But then I liked it so much, and I was actually utilizing it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to spring for the whole 34. And yeah, it gives you a lot more insight. All right, but anyway, it's cool. If you like that sort of thing, it's really neat. Let's just block in the silver here. I'm going to use Cloudy Gray still. That's funny, Cornico. But yeah, I know personality tests and stuff and metrics like that are not for everybody, but I am very much, you guys all know I'm pretty much in the self-actualization boat at this point, trying to be the best Anne I can be. So that kind of test, that insight was really useful to me. It's really useful to me. Like now when I make a decision or I react to something, I can really pinpoint like what part of my personality is like doing that. And sometimes it's not like in your favor, right? The way that Becca puts it, my coach person puts it, is that you can have a strength that's operating in either a balcony or a basement or somewhere in between. And basement strengths are things like, let's see, what's a good example? Oh, my focus. Okay, so I'm number 4 focus. So when I like really get dialed in on something, the blinders go on and I just go, right? And I totally lose track of time and da-da-da-da-da. But high focus people can also neglect their relationships if they don't watch out because they're too focused on their own stuff and their own things. And so that's an example of like focus being in the basement. Whereas a focus who like uses it selectively to get things done that are important to them in their lives, then that's operating in the balcony. So that's the kind of thing that I talk about. Oh, another empathy. Oh, Kodiak, you and Agent Marvel are both number 1 empathies. Wow, that's cool. Intellection is my number 3. Harmony, context, and deliverance. Deliberative. That's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, context is a really interesting one. It's like not a thing I have, but people with context like look at the past and use it to interpret the present. And they like to know what has gone before, right? And they like to like look at the things around a thing. Like they always have to have that context because they know that nothing happens in a vacuum. So yeah, so all these are really cool. But yeah, I'm with you in the intellection. So Kodiak, the best thing I ever did for my intellection was to start taking evening walks by myself after supper. Just a short one, like even 20 minutes, but I usually do more like 30. And just letting myself think, not putting in a podcast, not putting in an audiobook, but just for the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes of that walk, all I do is I just let myself think about whatever my brain wants to think about. And it actually like lowered my stress levels pretty significantly because intellection needs time. It needs time to just think of things, think about things. And I bet with deliberative, it's probably even more so for you. But I don't know. I'm not a coach. Like, I totally disclaimer. That's just my guess. Oh, nice. Yes. Agent Marvel, awesome. Yeah, because you're an achiever. I love it. See, now you can speak the speak. It's because you start doing this stuff and then you're like, oh, that's totally my achiever. That's totally my strategic. That's totally my intellection. That's totally my empathy. Yeah, with empathy, yeah, that's really cool. You guys are so cool. Everybody's so cool. But yeah, it's a really neat test. So if you're interested in that kind of like science, psychology science, like look into it. Even if you don't do it, it's really fascinating. But okay, so I'm just mixing up and I just put a little bit more paint in there because I thought I didn't have, I'm at about a 5-to-1 now, I think. So, but yeah, I hope it's really useful for you, Agent Marvel. I'm happy I recommended it. It's just another tool, right? Because the better you understand yourself, like the better you can see when you're roadblocking yourself. Or when you're doing something, maybe, because, you know, when you start a business, like, and let's face it, like starting a Patreon is starting a side gig. But when you do something like that, you can fall over yourself, right? You're trying to figure out the best way to do things, and everybody's giving you all this advice, and all the advice might not work for you. So it's really useful to kind of know your strengths so you can spot Like when somebody gives you a piece of advice, you can spot kind of whether that works for you, right? Because you know, you're going to start knowing what plays to your strengths and what type of thing doesn't, right? Yeah, careful not to get too gung-ho. Yep. Yeah, achiever is one of the strengths. It's funny because a lot of people wish they had I have focus and discipline. They're what they call a power pair. So there are some pairs of strengths that work really well together, and focus and disc are two of those. And so a lot of people are jealous of my focus and disc because essentially they're getting things, they're executing strengths, right? Focus puts the blinders on and just goes, and discipline is the list maker. Discipline is we make a list and then the focus buckles down and just knocks it out, right? And that's how I could do so much with my life at this point, you know, between the writing and the Patreon and the streaming every morning and the, you know, keeping the house okay and cooking and writing and training Kiki and, you know, all the things that I do, insane amounts of things. The only way that I can do that is with my discipline and my focus. Like, discipline makes the lists and I keep my brain sane that way. I just made a new list this morning. I made a list of my goals for my writing because I needed to revisit it. I knew because the last time I made it, I had no idea, right? I was walking into the wilderness and I had no idea what the wilderness was going to be. So I'm just base coating, guys, over the top of this gray. It's going to look like I didn't do anything because it's almost the same color. You can see the difference though there. So cloudy gray, even though it's a medium gray, medium dark gray, I would say, it still looks pretty light next to all these other darker colors. And that's what I want. I want these, those areas to stand out. I have a lot of dark on this model, a lot of mid and dark. And so I need to have some light other than the skin. That's why I did the fingers like skin, like Rhonda did. It's a color composition choice, but because I felt I needed some more light colors. Oh yeah, bloop, 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 bloop. We have 2 primes and a regular. Carrie Michael Cosby, 33 months. Dogfather with 38, and then Miss Nimp with 40. Everybody was in order. Thank you all for the resubs. Yay! Round of applause. Round of applause. Discipline, strategic, responsibility. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, discipline. Discipline. Oh, man. And strategic. I love my strategic. Being a number 1 strat, I'm just like, yeah, this is it. So that's cool because it sounds then like, just looking at your strengths, you must be a pretty active, like go-getter kind of like able to shift gears to find the best way for you kind of person. But you also have so much that social connectedness. Like, that's really good. Like, I have to think you're going to do great at Patreon, Patreon and streaming, like all that kind of thing. Yeah, adaptability is one I wish I had. The one thing that focus and discipline kind of get me tied down sometimes. And I'm not good at switching gears. This is a discipline thing. So that's actually something to maybe watch. If you ever get coaching on it, they'll tell you, but adaptability and discipline can kind of fight with each other sometimes. Because adaptability is like, oh, I was ready to switch gears, but discipline doesn't like to. Discipline likes to make a plan and go. But you also have strategic, and that's probably going to work with your adaptability. So it's really interesting. Everything interacts. Nothing is in a vacuum. It's so cool. It's so cool. I got coaching, and the coaching pretty much like told me what I thought I didn't. It had a couple of revelations for me, like that my strategic number 1 and my intellection number 3 actually can kind of fight with each other a lot. Strategic wants to go ahead and make the best decision, but intellection wants to think about it, and sometimes you can just hang yourself up spinning your wheels and not get anything done. So that was useful. But otherwise, I think you have a fascinating, but I think everybody's fascinating. I love looking at other people's strengths and going, ooh, it's so cool. Yeah, that's a really cool set of strengths, though. Yeah, but discipline, I love it. Yeah. I found I was having trouble with my focus, just like, I got coaching because I was having trouble with my focus. Like, I felt like my focus was a superpower, but it was not operating very well for me. And the way that, and actually all this reading stuff is how I figured out the take the evening walks if you have intellection thing. or morning walks, whatever works with your schedule. But for me, evening is nice, kind of contemplative time, so I take it then. But yeah, for the and all this stuff is like useful in all the stuff, not just like in your hobbies. Even it can be useful. But yeah, I felt like focus just wasn't working very well for me, and so the fix that they gave me there is that I think I mentioned this too, is that I was trying to chunk up my time too much. So sometimes, guys, if you have a brain that likes to really latch onto something and just go, time chunking isn't going to work for you very well. Pomodoros are not going to work for you very well. And this is true in painting as well, or any hobby you have. If you find that you get frustrated, if you're trying to time chunk, because say you've got very little, say you've only got an hour in the evening to work on all the stuff you love to work on, including your own hobbies. And so you're trying to chunk it into 2 chunks. Like you're trying to do a half an hour with one hobby and a half an hour with another hobby. And it's really, you're just getting frustrated. Chances are you're going to get better mileage if you just choose one night for one hobby and another night for the other hobby, so that you have the full hour for each hobby. Some of us have brains that just work like that. So that's what I ended up doing, although for me it was work days. I would try to split up my work days, so I was always doing some writing and always doing some Patreon and always doing some whatever, right? Instead, I went to today is a writing day. Today is a Patreon day. Today is this day, right? And that works so much better. Pomodoros is a time chunking method. It's the word for tomato. It's the Spanish word for tomato. The person who invented it kind of did. So the Pomodoro thing goes that you work in, I think is it 20 minutes with 5-minute breaks or something like that? Yeah. Well, now you know, Pendrake, Pomodoro. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe you compare that down to an hour and a half. You know, mess around with it a little bit, Kodiak. I find that I can push mine a little bit, but I really need the majority of my time to go to one thing. And some of us, like you, actually, maybe 2 hours is what it's at for you, because, and that explains too why you sometimes you've shared in the chat that, you know, you get frustrated, you wish you could paint more. You know, but you just don't have the energy and the time. Well, it makes sense, right? Because you have deliberative, and you know, you want that time. You want to take your time, and maybe it takes time for you to just kind of get in the groove. So by the time you're in the groove, you need another hour to actually execute and feel satisfied. So that makes a lot of sense. Then that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and you work well with discipline. Discipline is so routine, and actually, I feel my discipline works against me sometimes too, because I really hate breaking routine. I have to really lecture myself when David will, and he's learned not to give me a spontaneous thing. Like I've told him before, if you just give me a couple days to process it, I'll make the time in the schedule and I won't regret it. But if you try to pounce me at the last minute with some invite, I'm going to say no, because it's a total routine disruption. Yeah. Yeah, that happens, Kernico. A lot of us have, yeah. Yeah, right. Well, and though Kodiak, that can be something you can work on, right? Like, because whenever it's your mental speaking up, because what is worth it? Like, for me, I fought against that too. Because I'm like, oh, if I only have like 20 minutes, I'm only going to get the hair base coated on this model. But guess what? If I did 20 minutes every day, I'd have the model done at the end of 2 weeks. So kind of question. You also have to question your premises that you've set up in your head, right? About painting and about like what is enough done. Because I had to really realize that sitting down and base coating one part of the model is enough. It's more than I had yesterday. And then at the end of a week of doing that, I have serious progress done. So sometimes trying out that mental shift to see if it can work for you is worth it. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. If you really feel like you've got to have a big time chunk to see measurable progress, that's fair. Everybody's different. But yeah, the Pomodoro thing is like, it's a time chunking method where you work 30 minutes and then you take a short break and then you work another 30 minutes and you take a short break. It works for a lot of people, Pendrake. And it's especially, I think, in today's world where a lot of times we're being asked to multitask, but multitasking really doesn't work. So this is a way to kind of multitask, but not. It lets you work on several different things over the course of a 2 or 3 hour period in your early or late workday. But it breaks it up nicely. And so it can be more productive. But for some people, it's not. Some people take a lot, like people who do deep thinking work, people who are focus people, they have to get into that groove. Like we put the blinders on and go for an hour and a half, right? Hour and a half is my sweet spot. I can work in smaller chunks. I won't feel as satisfied though. I'm going to mix up some brown liner. I just want to put a line between the gold and the silver there on our hip before I do some wash. And I think we'll use gray liner for the wash, although I may put a little bit of color in it. Yeah, and then it's Eat That Frog. Yep. Yeah. Awesome, Kodiak. That's fantastic. Yeah! I'm so excited for you because you were like really, really wanting to go paint more, and I'm so happy that you're finding a way to do it. That's great. Nice. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I like Eat That Frog. It makes sense to me because, yeah, I am the type who has a lot of resistance. I have to fight resistance a lot to sit down and do the thing sometimes. So if I get the task that I've been dreading, as long as I can figure out which task I've been dreading, but sometimes like things will build up and I'll just put them off, and they'll build up this giant weight in my brain. So then I have to eat that frog to get through to anything else. Eat That Frog being another motivation type time trunking book, which pretty much goes out. It's based on the Mark Twain saying, if you must eat a frog, you know, you'd best get it out of the way right away. And the thought, and the thought behind it is just that, you know, if you've got this giant task on your list that you're really dreading, if you don't get it out of the way, it's just going to eat you all day. It's going to sit there in your head, and it's going to sit there for days, and it's just going to get harder and harder to actually do it. So, and chances are it's actually a task. It is a difficult task because, you know, it's going to take some concentration. It's going to take time and actual effort. It's not quick and easy, and so it doesn't give our brain that reward, right? It's like starting elaborate freehand. It's like you start it, and it's going to be, you know, complex and take forever, and it's not going to feel rewarding for a long time. And so it can be a fight to even start it. Right, Pendrake, but so the Pomodoro thing is for those people. So instead of trying to do 3 things at once, they can spend half an hour doing one thing, another half an hour doing another thing, another half an hour doing a third thing, and then, you know, and some people's jobs require that. Like, they're expected to be doing all these things at once. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, so you like momentum is what I'm hearing there, Miss Nimp, is that you benefit when you've got momentum, when you're rolling on a thing, when you're seeing progress and you're just like working on that one thing. Yeah, today's world is not friendly to that sort of brain, is it? Yep. Yeah, there are lots of eaten elephant parables out there. Lots of equivalents to that mindset thing. And it is true. I mean, it is the way though that rather than eating the elephant, the way that resonated with me that I heard that put is there's always a threshold to step over to start a thing. And often we place that threshold too high for us to easily step over. And so that's where resistance kicks in. So our job is to make that first step really easy to step over. That first threshold, lower that threshold until it's super easy to step over. And then you're in. Then you can move forward. So I like that better than the eating an elephant, although it also, you know, is appealing from the image. In your head, but I like the threshold analogy a little better because for me it feels like that. It feels like just taking that first step can feel so hard, but if I sit down and just look at it and go, okay, what's the easiest thing I can do? Like right now I need to mail in my taxes, so if I start thinking about organizing that and digging through the packet and figuring out you know, state taxes and figure out, you know, what I need to, you know, where do I need to mail this, what part of this do I need to mail, blah blah blah, it'll just like overwhelm me and I'll be just like, pretty much. Whereas if I just go, all I need to do is get it out. Let's just get out the packet. Then I'll get it out. Okay, I'll get out an envelope. Okay, I got an envelope. Okay, tomorrow the task is I look at the back pages and see if I can find the address. Okay, that's easy. I can do that. Sometimes for unpleasant tasks, I have to break it down like that, or I make it super easy. And once I'm in it, most of the time, then it's fine. But for things like that, right, Quindy, exactly. Oh, good. Yay, product. Sweet, missed him. Sweet. Awesome. Nike's Just Do It is perfect, although not for everybody. That's the thing. Yeah, and spoons. Oh, but yeah, spoons is not platitude. As somebody with chronic illness, Elijah, spoons is useful. Spoons is very, very useful. Spoons is a great analogy. Spoons saved me. So some of those may sound like platitudes, but the spoons one for chronic illness is the reals. It's the reals. So some of those are easy to just for people to just like flick off. Just do it. But yeah, some of them are actually useful tools for understanding things that are impacting your world. So yeah. And for those who don't know the spoons analogy, although I think you all do, I think we brought up spoons analogy on here before. Spoons theory. And it's been the hardest thing in the world to come to terms with the fact that sometimes I just do not have the spoons. So. All right, we're going to take some gray liner. I'm going to probably put just a tiny bit of blue in it because our other armor is blue. And so I want it to have something in common, but not a lot. So I'm going to do 2 drops of gray liner because gray liner is a little bit not as strong. Yeah, energy pennies and spoons. Yeah, if you have any friends with chronic illness, chances are they are familiar with spoon theory, and you will be as well if they have shared it with you. And energy pennies are good too. Energy pennies are what my coach talks about, which are it's like energy pennies are kind of for everybody, but then spoons also are, Technically, everybody's got a certain number of spoons or energy pennies. Energy pennies are just kind of a cool analogy because you also can earn pennies, right? When you take a power nap, when you meditate, when you take a relaxing walk or exercise, you get pennies back, right? So, whereas you don't really talk about getting spoons back. Like you have a number of spoons for the day, and that's what you've got with spoon theory. Where is I need to make a wash. It is over. If it was over metallics, I could use a gloss sealer here, but I am going to use brush-on sealer to create this wash. Yeah, energy pennies are one of the things my coach talks about, the coach I follow. So I don't know that they're everywhere. But yeah, she talks about, because it's a writing thing. She's like, you spend your energy pennies throughout the day, and you can do some things to get energy pennies back, like exercise or relaxation, power nap or whatever. Spending time with your loved one will sometimes give you energy pennies back, things like that. And then it depends on your personality too, right? So for me, I'm a list maker, and when I sit down and make a list, I get really energized. Because when I sit down and set out my goals, I'm like, yeah, let's go. So different personalities will get different get energy from doing different tasks. Kodiak, I found her books. She's a writing coach. She's a Clifton Strengths certified life coach who has been doing Clifton Strengths for a very long time. She was also a writer, mystery author. And so she started essentially writing about writing and utilizing her coaching, her Clifton Strengths knowledge to help writers. Because she found that she was coaching a lot of creatives and she started seeing a lot of common threads. So her name is Becca Syme, Syme, and she is really cool. And she's got a lot of YouTube stuff up about writing and Clifton Strengths. So if you are utilizing your strength stuff in any creative pursuit, even though it's not writing. Watching her videos may actually help you out, some of them. She talks about burnout. She talks about energy pennies. She has a lot of that. But I like Becca. I actually had a real coaching session with her when I took my class, which was Strengths for Writers is what it was called. So I'm going to put 2 drops of sealer and 2 drops of water here. I want to keep this a little bit thicker. I'm going to mix it up. Let's see what I've got. But yeah, I don't know if I'll do coaching again. I think I'm not, for me, it's like I wanted to get the coaching to kind of like tackle a couple of things that I felt like I could do better. And now that I have it, I'm going to just kind of run with it and see if I run into another roadblock, then maybe I'll get more coaching. But yeah. But yeah, so if you are interested in Becca, hold on, let me get her stuff. She wrote a book called Dear Writer, You Need to Quit, which you know, I picked up just out of curiosity, and then I really started to love her stuff. And I think her YouTube is The Quitcast, Quitcast, The Quitcast. But yeah, like I said, mostly it's writing, but some of the stuff you could apply to any creative field. All right, so we've got this, and I've got to kind of see if this is going to be dark enough. Look at how it pools. That's actually pretty good. Remember, though, it is going to dry lighter than it looks. So I'm going to grab blue liner. Remember, I wanted to add a touch of blue. And I'm going to actually make this a much darker wash. So I'm going to add a drop of blue liner to it. Because right now it's got 2 drops of gray liner, 2 drops of sealer, and 2 drops of water in it. 1. Let's put a drop of blue liner and see if I can thicken it up. But yeah, part of my personality, my personality profile discipline is all about lists. Lists give me energy. If you'd taken that personality test, the Clifton Strengths test, look at your top and see like kind of, you know, what it makes you really good at, and some of that is going to give you energy instead of taking it away. So like if you're an achiever, maybe you get a burst of energy if you successfully execute on something to a high, you know, whatever your success metric is. Alrighty, I'm going to try this and see how it looks. So you see the paleness. I'm working with a really dark wash. You can see that I've actually made it quite strong now. So I think it's going to, because I know it's going to dry lighter, and that's why I've gone darker with it. But yeah, lists don't work with it for everybody. I mean, that's the thing about everybody being so different. All right, so we've put that on. You can see how that's outlining everything. It is going to dry lighter than it looks. But it's going to outline all these nice little things for me. I hear clicky paws back there. All right, so I'm going to take, if I want to, I can slurp off a little bit of this. If I feel like it's gotten too... And the other thing I can do is wet blend it. Maybe you haven't ever tried to wet blend a wash, but you can do, if you know where your light is coming down, you can lighten it up a little bit along those areas. So here, down the center, maybe up here on the shoulder, I'll introduce some of my base coat and blend it into the wash a little, just to bring a little bit more light in. Of course, you have to stop that once your wash starts to dry. And what essentially I'm doing with this is I'm creating parts that are lighter and darker. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, whenever you can see a tangible result. And some people don't care. It's like I care about like putting out a really good product, like with my books, my miniatures, my everything. But some people don't. They just want to get it done and get past it and do the next thing. Everybody tackles everything differently. So I just mitigated that a little bit. And now I'm going to go down here and just try to lighten up the outer part of this. But yeah, the other thing Becca's videos talk a lot is how difficult adult behavioral change is. And she's right. It's hard to change. It's hard to change ourselves. It's not easy. Possible, but it's not easy. There we go. So lightening up the hip there. Here it's in shadow, so I'm actually not going to lighten it up. I just have a little bit of texture there, and I like it, and I'm going to wait and pick out some details. So I'm going to let this dry. And I'm going to mix up a highlight. I was going to do gold, but I got totally sidetracked by the silver. Alrighty. But yeah, life and painting, like your hobbies and everything, is all about, as far as I'm concerned, it's all about just figuring out what gets you the results you want. Like just learning how to hack your brain to get like to where you want to be. I had to trick myself to figure out how to like lose weight, right? I had to find the thing that worked for me and work on how I was thinking about stuff. And painting is the same way. Like I know that I could be doing more painting right now. But I know like kind of what I need to do it, right? So then it's just a matter of doing it. I'm going to grab my cloudy gray and I'm going to mix a highlight color. Let's see here. Grab it over, pop it down. I'm going to add some white. I'm also going to add, again, some blue. This time I had a lighter blue. Probably tropical. I like tropical. Oh, nice. Yeah, I have to... That's another thing, actually, to talk about is when you set goals for your hobby, right? Because, like, if I put down Paint a Mini, that wouldn't work for me at all. Like, I have to be specific for my goals. So if you find that general goals frustrate you, do think about maybe trying to do a more specific goal. For me, it would have to be more like base coat the hair or put highlights on the cloth, you know, on the red cloth, not the other cloth. Like, I totally need to do that. Like, otherwise it's too big of a goal and my brain just wants to freeze. It wants to freeze and stop and think about, but wait, I can't paint a whole mini in that time, so what am I going to actually do? So I have to set it up for success. Dragon colors. Did you get dragons? Do you have dragons, Pendrick? Yeah, I have to like totally chunk down things into like tiny steps to get things done. I swear sometimes. All right, so I've got a pale gray. Let's see if it's going to be solid enough. I put some pure white in it. It needs to be able to hit these little beads, and you could just use like the side of your brush and to pick up this texture. You don't have to like actually hit the little tiny male bits, but that's true enough, Elijah. That makes sense. Yeah, I enjoy painting to a high level, so it's true. Even my gaming miniatures are... It just means they take 4 hours instead of 8. Because it's just the way I like to roll. So just coming in to hit some of these specifics. This is very, very shallow detail, so it can be very challenging. To try to like dry brush or anything this, because it's just so very tiny. You may just want to do the wash and leave it if you're like newer. If you have the brush control though, coming in to highlight some of this is a good call. I'm not sure. Not sure when Chibi Pathfinder Dragon comes out. So I'm kind of excited for the end of this week. It's Cinco de Mayo, of course, but I can't really, it's not like I drink anymore. But I am going to make tamales. And Cory Doctorow, for those who are familiar with his work, is coming and doing a reading at our local independent bookstore in Mountain View. So we're going to go out and see him. And I'm going to bring his one of his new nonfiction book for him to sign for me if he's up for it. Oh, it's an add-on for Bone 6. Got it. Yeah, depending. I mean, the 2025-2026 is a very cold red. Has a lot of violet in it. A lot of blue. So, if you want a warmer red for your red dragon, more like what Sophie's got here, you would not start with those colors. So it just depends on your goal, like what sort of red you want. So picking up some of those little details. I'm mostly picking them up straight down the middle. I'm going to get the edges though. Quarterly model. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, if you're not motivated by deadlines, if you're demotivated by deadlines, then yeah. I have to start way in the beginning, way far out if I want to finish something for a deadline. Otherwise, it'll become too stressful for me, and my brain will just say, not worth it. But I otherwise enjoy competition, so if I really care about it, then I'll do it. So see what we've got going on here. And I have not brought in any pure white yet, so we really can bring in the sparkles in a second. Just want to get a little light up there, got light over there. We've kept our two shadows here from our washes because the way the light's going to come down, this is a rounded area. So now we're going to bring in some pure white down the middle, and I'll probably glaze with this lighter color to bring this up but not totally lose the texture. Oh, I have to be good about Kickstarter. I have so many models. No Kickstarters. Plus, we got the 3D printer now, and I want those dragon busts. There's a dragon bust thing on my mini factory right now that I'm like, My dragon painting self wants to paint them. Yeah, it's a pile of potential, but I have not been painting lately. I've been knitting, actually. I should just say this out. I've got it. Hi, I'm Anne, and I have a knitting problem now. I know you feel me, Kerniko. Oh dear. David was even surprised. He was looking at my cowl that I started. I think I started it like beginning of March, end of February, beginning of March, when I went down to visit my parents in Arizona, when I drove down with the Keekster. Yeah, those Dragon Busters are so cool, Kerniko. I have to get it. I know Kodiak already spent money. Hey, I have a question about My Mini Factory for those who like go there. You don't need the members. Do you need the account, the membership, like to buy stuff, or can you just buy stuff and the membership is different? Like, I can't tell. They're trying to, like, you know, make me sign up for a membership, and I'm like, do I even need a membership to do this, or can I just buy stuff? Yeah, that's true, Elijah. Okay, so they just try to imply that so that they make you buy it. Yeah, I thought that might be the case. They're like, you should make an account. And so I signed up with Google with my Painting Big account, and then they're like, here's your membership options, and I'm like, meh. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I need an account, but not to pay, right? Because that just seems sus to me. I was just like, do I really want to do this? So yeah, okay. Thanks for answering my questions. So I'll just go and log in and try to buy some Dragon Busts then. Sweet. Yeah, because I like those Dragon Busts a lot, and now that David is actually printing things, I can ask him to show me how to work with the printer. So I'm gonna just highlight with pure white, kind of the middle here. So let's see if I can get it like close. Let's see if I can get close and in focus. There we go. Cool. Well, then I'll go and I'll sign up for the dragons. Yay, dragons. Okay. So I'm going to get some pure white in here. I'm going to do a glaze too after. So thank God for reading glasses. I wouldn't be able to see these at all. But I've got a problem. My white is just a little bit too thick. So if you're using a skinny brush and your paint is not coming off the tip like you need it to, add just a tiny bit more water. I just picked up some water on my brush and mixed it in. You want to get to that point where it'll come off nicely, but still pretty thick, because these little beads, you don't want to paint them more than once. I'm rethinking my release date for my second book, guys. Because after pointing out that, like, my original release date is, like, pretty much in the middle of ReaperCon, I wouldn't be able to bring any of the new book. Because it takes time for Ingram's and Amazon to print those and ship them to you. And I want to bring some of the new books. Now I'm thinking about end of August instead of early September. I think it'll be done. Oh, sorry. Got off camera. That's the problem with getting so close. So I just did the little line there on the bottom. Oh, Carnigo, you're always helping. So really with the pure white, I'm only focusing like down the exact middle. And then I'm going to come, you can kind of see how it's brighter there now. Then I'm going to come up like here on the shoulder, which is definitely catching the light, and I'm going to hit it there. So that brings the light up there. Yeah, I was using Etsy, Elijah. But then David finally pulled the plug on a printer over the winter, but then he just started using it because he needed to print a plinth for his bust that he's finishing up right now. You'll probably see it at ReaperCon. It is pretty beauteous. Oh, and I got a little bit of white on her shoulder there, so I've got to touch that up with liner. Yeah, we were resistant to 3D printers for a long time, but I just wanted to wait till the interface was a little bit easier. David seemed to have, like, no big problems. Thanks to all the people on my Patreon who talk in the 3D printing channel and answered our questions. And if you do like find that you've gotten too light or you've painted a couple of different beads or whatever, you can go over and change, fill in things, break it up with your gray liner. But that's looking pretty good. That's looking pretty good. Yeah, he printed a plinth. Plinth was easy. The plinth, we figured that was an easy project, and it did misfire once, but then he got it to work the second time. But yeah, now we need to print. We're printing a bust for my brother, so we can paint it for him for Christmas. So we found a pretty good Clint Eastwood bust, and my brother is super into Clint Eastwood. It was Clint Eastwood or Star Wars. We could probably find a bunch of Star Wars stuff, but I rather would do the Clint one. So we're gonna do. David and I gonna collaborate on it. David will probably start it, and I'll probably finish it. My brother is a hard one for Christmas because he really only wants a gift if it has like personal value. Like he's not a gift card person. Like he would rather get no gift than get just a generic gift. So I've been wanting to paint something for him for a while now. I painted something for him like way back when I first started at Reaper, but I'm a much better painter now. So I really wanted to, we found a Clint Eastwood Good, Bad, and the Ugly bust, and that's a movie that Pete and I used to watch all the time as kids, so I thought that would be, I'm constantly getting off camera. Yeah, Pete and I grew up watching Clint Eastwood movies. We're fans. I'm going to get my pure white and just get the center of these. And again, if I'm not super exact, like do your best if you're trying to hit these little things. Just like the key is very little paint on the brush and a thicker paint than you might think so it doesn't run everywhere. But you want to focus your light really down here on the hip. You don't want to go up into that shadow area. And if you accidentally like glob a bit, chances are nobody's going to notice. You can always come back. Like I globbed a bit there. Elijah. Sorry about the car. I feel that. Having just had spent a bunch of money, or just about to spend a bunch of money on mine. Cars are expensive. I'm waiting for the tax money to come in for that. All right, so there we go. So we've got some light there. Now I don't want my highlights to just cut off either, so if I have a really bright highlight here, I may come up with my lighter gray and like do the row above it, kind of fade it out a little bit. There, so it blends in more. There. There. Pretty. Oh, yuck, Elijah. Sorry. Oh, really? Scott Eastwood is like Clint Mark .2? Didn't know. Just going to do just a little bit of highlighting down under here, just to bring in a little bit of light. There would be a bit of reflected light here, but in general, everything is in shadow. So I'm not going to bring in my pure white. I'm just using my light gray to just hit a little bit. That'll be enough for people to see it. Good enough. Alrighty. Now this belt buckle I did in white and I didn't do. Yeah, sometimes insurance surprises you. When my catalytic converter got stolen, I was very surprised that insurance decided to pay the $4,000 to fix it. Considering how old the car is. But I have kept it in pretty good shape, so taking my gray here, and since it's a very small area, I am mixing a tiny bit of my gray liner or blue liner mix into it. But you can still see that with the white underpainting, the gray stands out from the buckle. People are just freaking distracted. Too many things. And then I'll grab my highlight, my white. Because on a very small area like a buckle, you don't need to do all the transition highlights. Just need to hit some spots and it's going to look fine. Put a little bit of shadow in here. But now what I really want to do is figure out, am I doing gold here? Probably. Technically, I don't have that real bright silver. I could do silver on this little emblem. And it would make it stand out a bit. So, especially because it's next to this gold here. So I guess I will. I'll grab my gray. See how it goes over the top on this little emblem. And because this is nice and raised, it's pretty easy to hit the texture here. Yeah, that's true, Big Chimpo. Or we just need teleporters. We want highlights going straight down the middle of this. I don't know. We have self-driving cars zipping around all over here to being tested. I've yet to see one make the wrong call. If anything, they're a little annoying because they're so they always like decide on Like if I'm in an intersection with Kiki, or I'm even approaching the intersection, the car will sit there, like, because it doesn't know what I'm going to do. And it'll wait until I commit to an action. But, you know, if you're driving that car, you are so frustrated if you're paying attention. Yeah, it's super cautious. And they have to be, right? I mean, for anybody to trust an automatic self-driving car, they're going to have to have near perfect records. Which in some ways makes me raise eyebrows, because I'm just like, considering how imperfect human drivers are, almost anything would be an improvement, especially with people on their freaking phones. But at the same time, I get it, right? Because you know the minute there's an accident, that company's getting sued because their car malfunctioned. Because it's no longer the human's responsibility. Oh, I'm sure, Agent Marvel. I wonder though, like, the percentage of error. Like, I always like question and want to know the exact numbers behind stuff. Like, okay, so that one malfunctioned, but did the previous 50,000 make the correct call? I'm just curious. I actually enjoy driving, so for me, I don't know that a self-driving car would be a plus. I'm not really, like, I like to actually drive and kind of use the automaticness of it to think a lot, like plan my books and stuff like that. So a self-driving vehicle is not really a plus for me. It's more a plus for people who want to sit on their media and, you know, maybe watch a movie instead of pay attention to driving across the country, and I get that. Oh yeah. Yeah, it will. Big Chimpo for sure. Yeah, if you could do your commute on a Triceratops, yep. I don't know, you're such a cold climate, though. Would the Triceratops do okay in Scotland? You'd have to have him in a big muzzy coat. A big fuzzy coat. You'd have to knit him a sweater, Kerniko. A Triceratops sweater. Do you know how many balls of yarn that would take? Seriously. Oh, I bet it's discouraging to real drivers. I mean, real drivers are terrible. Speaking as a real driver. Oh, dear. Right. All right, so we've got our nice little highlights, and again, just a flash of white going right down the middle. That's all you really need for little details like this. Have fun, Elijah. Yeah, I'm like, my mind is pretty open on self-driving cars. Like, I'm just kind of, you know, watching as things develop. Brontosaurus. Dinosaur would be perfect. But I think the idea of a Triceratops in a hand-knitted sweater is the best. I think that needs to happen. Now I'm going to campaign for dinosaur taxis. To heck with his flying car Jetsons crap. Let's go back to the Flintstones. I'm going to get back and highlight that little buckle just a little bit, but I think we're good. Raptor drone carriages. People get in your way, they just eat them. All right. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Pretty happy, pretty happy. Let's do the golds. Let's do the golds. Yeah. I think I got all my silver. Little sleepy today. Little sleepy. All right. It's the version of Dinotopia that we never saw. With the sweaters, yes. They do have a winter. He does have winter, like dinosaurs. Like, is it the monastery or thing that has the dinosaurs in it up on that snow-covered mountain? And I'm like, why aren't they all wearing little sweaters? Velociraptors with rickshaws, the Velociraptor is really just doing that so that eventually they can turn around and eat who's ever in the rickshaw. It's really their takeout. It's not a rickshaw, it's Velociraptor takeout. Alright, so we've got our silver set up. Now let's get some gold going on. I've got a little bit of time left. So we can at least get a first highlight on that. I'm going to grab my rich leather and my lantern yellow and throw together something. Alrighty. Well, it's fine. I actually love the idea of dinosaurs and sweaters. So I'm going to do 1 drop of lantern yellow, 1 drop of rich leather, and 1 drop of pure white. And I'm going to see what that comes out to. It should come out to a decent starting color. Then we just get dinosaur bumper cars. Yes, it's true. It just devolves to dinosaur battles at that point. That's not very good for the dinosaurs, so I have to stop endorsing the idea at that point. All right. Well, that might be actually a little less yellow. Oh, that's okay. That's all right. I can do that. I can work with that. It's a little less yellow than I wanted it, so I think the white bleached it out a little bit too much. So let's actually add 1 more drop of lantern yellow and 1 more drop of rich leather. When you're talking about raptors the size of horses, that's where I get off the train. That's just nightmare fuel, guys. We don't need that. We don't need super social, intelligent dinosaurs the size of horses in our lives. Like, if they're in our lives are going to be very short, all right? So let's just drop that right there. There, that'll be a good color. Doo-doo-doo. Don't do feathery dino. Your inner child refuses feathery dinos. I assume that Archaeopteryxes are the exception, Kroniko, since they were around when I was a child. And they were like dinosaur birds. They were acceptable. They were acceptable. I felt that they were acceptable. Well, they were not the coolest, but they were acceptable. All right, I'm going to, essentially everywhere I've got an upper surface, I'm going to paint over with this color. So lower surface will stay what it was, which is rich leather. Upper surface will do it. Anything in between, I'm just going to highlight these little studs here. It's a dinosaur bird. I guess it counts more as a bird. It's kind of a dinosaur bird, though. I guess birds are dinosaurs anyway. They just say chickens are dinosaurs. In which case, we eat dinosaurs every day. But okay, I'll give you that Archaeopteryx counts as a bird, not a true dinosaur. I always felt like there was some sort of hybrid in between. So just putting some highlights on there. If I don't bring in more yellow here and I just highlight this color, it's going to come off more as a bronze, which is fine. All right, I'm going to put in a little bit of lining here. I feel like I don't have a shadow. It's going to be rough. I just wiped out a highlight. Oops. Should have lined this at the beginning. But I didn't, so now I'm going to pay by having to touch up stuff. That's darkened it down, though. It makes it look shinier. Oh, I have not seen a chicken go after mice. I didn't know that chickens would kill mice. So do they eat them? I don't need the answer to that question, probably. Yeah, roosters will go after small children, and geese. Geese will go after adults. Yeah, let's not get back on the attack geese thread. Then I'm just going to have nightmares. Goose nightmares. I was just saying mice are not fans of chickens. Yeah, let's just leave that there. Let's not give Anne nightmare fuel. I had weird dreams anyway. Weird, like, not really, more Scholomance than Hogwarts dreams last night. Like, I don't know why. We were watching Great British Baking Show. I hadn't even been watching David's Hogwarts game. But for some reason, my dreams decided to put me into, like, some weird combo of Scholomance and Hogwarts. It just made no sense. It was one of those dreams. One of those dreams where you're like, well, I guess I'm just going to go with this. Popping up my highlights just a little bit to make that look shiny. But now I know why that one game had, like, chickens going after the little tiny protagonist. I forget what it was. It was one of those puzzle games. And one of the enemies that David had to get around was actually a chicken. And I was like, really? And the main character looks like a mouse. Kind of. But maybe the whole point was that the developers actually knew, because I assumed that the chicken thought that the little mouse character was a bug, because chickens are insectivores. But then I thought, now I am thinking, oh no, maybe the developer of that actually knew that chickens would go after and kill mice, and so, thus the chicken enemy. Now I'm never going to look at that game the same way twice. I'm trying to do the same thing here, getting a little bit of lining in on that skirt. Oh yeah, this is, speaking of video games, this is the week I become a widow of David. Although he already has to deal with me in Overwatch leagues, so, you know, we're kind of widowing each other at that point, I guess. I also missed a spot back here, so I need a line between the chainmail and the gold thing. Wow, that's funny, Kroniko. I would never have thought. Things I'm learning today. Horrifying things, but things. So I'm just going to try to highlight a little bit on the top side of this. Got a little bit messy there. Yep, bye, Crowley. Yes, escape the horrifying talk while you can, Crowley. I always thought chickens were creepy, and now I know they're even creepier than I thought. Yeah, that went too light. So you have to watch it, because that's in shadow, right? So I've gone too light with it. Now I have to knock it back. Papa, what are you doing out there? Hearing suspicious noises. Gonna have to go investigate the papa in a second. There, knocked it back a little bit. That's better. The meeting is probably not going to talk about like meat eating chickens, so rodent eating chickens. I think that Crowley is safer. Sometimes for these little rings, all you need to do is kind of hit a little highlight and you're good. Maybe Boops just likes mice. Maybe he's lonely. Hello, Boar. How's it going? Doing tiny little highlights on the NMMs today. Just trying to get a little bit of this gold in now. We did the silver earlier on the chainmail. So we are bringing up our highlights here. All of this so that I can actually attach the wings and take her off this base and then attach the wings and put her on a new base. I want to get her close to done so that I don't have to paint around those wings once I put them on. Just easier to paint the model without the wings on it. So just going to line. Some cats be like that. I do need a shadow for the underside here, so I think I am going to grab some of my russet brown, 91.99. We'll do some quick shadows. We won't get through all of this today. We will at least get it kind of set up, though. Oof. Also, Kroniko, I've decided that a ball of yarn increases in size exponentially with how close you are to the end, because you think you're going to finish your knitting project and then you don't, and then you're like the next day, surely I will finish my knitting project today. There is not much yarn there, and then somehow there is so much more yarn than you think. And then you were like, arg, I'm going to finish it today, arg, and then no. I'm having that experience. So I think balls of yarn have some weird power of expansive growth. as you near the end. All right, I'm going to grab some of this brown and I'm going to darken down the underside of this. Not the edge that I just highlighted, but the interior. Ah, sorry, off camera, but there it is. So I can also take my ochre color and bring up a little bit of a highlight along that bottom edge so it isn't all brown. There, like that. I'm having fun with knitting. Though David is complaining because I started also learning crocheting and then I started to make us a sheep and then I dropped the sheep and the sheep has like one ear and I'm like, but I have to relearn crocheting to crochet the other ear and it's too much work. Because I tried both to see which I would like better and I definitely like knitting better, so. Even though it seems to be a sad fact of knitting life that like the thing that you are making is never going to be done like in time for the season that you're making it for. So by the time I'm done with my cowl, it will totally like be summer and I won't need it at all. And then my shawl that I'll knit is probably going to be too lightweight for winter when it'll probably be done and or you know, it's like that. All right, so there we go. So that's a little better. Opposite problem, you run out right before you're finished. You're at the shop, you may as well. Yeah. Did I say I bought yarn to make Kiki a dog blanket? I found a blanket pattern that I liked, and I was like, I would like to knit Kiki a dog blanket. It's all like, because I want David to like it, if I'm going to put it on something in our house, I made it all grays and teals. Gray, teal, black, cream, I think. All right, so there we go. So outline, like edge highlight, except I didn't use the pure white on the bottom. That's optional. Some artists will use the pure white to hit every edge. Some will hit just the upper edges as I am here. I did highlight the bottom edge with a lighter gold, but I did not actually use the white down there. Crochet is pretty controlled, Pendrake, but yeah, it's not, you know, I never thought I would enjoy it, but I am enjoying it, so it's a nice, it's my Zen hobby now. And a little bit of highlight there on the bottom part of that scabbard just to bring it up a little bit. We'll have to pull it. It's pretty much time to end. But we're at least getting there. So now that looks a little bit better. We still have all this gold to go next time. Yeah, it is very relaxing. Knitting and crochet are. And since the yarn is in a ball, it's actually, you don't get totally messed up usually, Pendrake. But yeah, it's not, nothing is for everybody, but I find it very relaxing with an audiobook or my esports on the TV. I get a lot done. Oh, crochet easier, huh? Interesting. I don't know, I tried crochet and it was like, well, it's okay, but I like the knitting. Now I'm learning increasing and yarning over. It's my new project. He teaches me that. So all right, so we've got at least the front of her looking okay. I need to get the little pommel over there too, but then we'll tackle that and the back next time. And I think then we'll be ready to cut her off her base. And probably take some green stuff to figure out what I need to sculpt on my rubble base to make sure her feet have nice solid landing spots. And probably do a little extra green work to like blend in some of this cobblestone so it looks more like a crumbled ruin with cobblestone floor and then crumbles around it. So we'll kind of do that. It's more like she's out in a ruin, and we'll make sure she has somewhere to stand on that. This is just a base made up of like bits of cork I had left over and little bits of sprue that I had left over from cutting a different model off of its base. So very handy. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, the botanical kits for Lego are really cool. We have the orchid and the succulents, and David had a lot of fun with them. David and I put together the orchid together, and he did the succulents with his parents when they were here for Christmas. Alrighty, guys. So looking good, and we're getting close to wings, which is fantastic. Tomorrow we are again back to working on our lady here. We were working on the white, and we'll continue to work on the white to see. There's a lot of it I need to bring up, and I need to darken the shadows a bit more so that it really looks like white, and you can see the transitions. So yeah, and it is a Rhonda day, so do show up to help to hang out with the Rhonda. Thanks very much, guys. And Quindy, thank you for herding the cats as usual. I hope you guys have a fantastic Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.